Okay. My bad point is that Cloud9 are wasting our time. So there was a part of me that was actually kind of happy that Astralis were clearly going to fail at some point. They failed miserably. I actually thought it was, so I'll just say I thought they were going to work, and I'm really unhappy that they failed. Even though this team was built in like the most disgusting way possible, I actually was excited about watching them. So
Yeah.
I thought Blame was getting better. I thought the IGLing, maybe he would be able to do it. But I've been let down by these players turned IGLs in the past. I should have learned a lesson. But either way, I think Cloud9 are wasting our time because they don't have an AWPer. I know it's a tired point at this point, but the fact of the matter is they've qualified to the major. Some of the teams like NiP and Astralis are going to face reality now that they haven't qualified to the major and will make moves. Cloud9, on the other hand, will play out the major. They won't win. They might have a decent run. And I think the maddest irony about Cloud9 is they're actually playing better as a team than they are as individuals. When you look at this roster and they have Electronic, Axile, and
Hobbit.
Hobbit,
Perfecto?
yeah,
Who
as
we
three,
talking about? Okay.
yeah, as three players, those three who should, as individuals, be able to carry constantly. Electronic's their best player. He doesn't even top frag that consistently anymore. Perfecto's probably the best individual player. The biggest irony is that the games they're winning now is based off of their team play. It's not their op, it's not their star rifler, it's their team play, which is so sad and kind of embarrassing and a little weird, and no one likes it, and there's no way they're going to win a tournament. So the bar that they have is the same bar that Liquid has, that G2 has, that FaZe have, that Navi have. It's to win a tournament. Other teams, you can build up to get to it. When we talk about Bleed, we always talk about them in the context of the matches they play in and the tournaments and the restructuring in the tier 2 and stuff like that. When we talk about Cloud9, you expect them to win tournaments. It's a fair bar to have. They will not reach that bar, and it doesn't seem clear when they'll make that roster move. So right now, I would say that's the biggest problem with Cloud9. Let's compare them directly to a regional matchup, to Spirit. Fuck Shiro, they don't even have Donk. How are they going to even be the best team at a tournament? They're not even the best team in the region.
It's weird. At the end, he made it almost like a political, like, talking point, didn't he? How are they going to be the best team in their fucking thing if they're not the best in their region? I'll leave it to my opponent, the Honorable Sir. Come on, hit me.
Yeah, well, yeah. Spoiler: Russia's like the strongest region right now. No, the way that Cloud9, I like that you bring up that idea that their teamwork has actually looked better than their individuals, because, well, that's going to be the case if you obviously don't have an AWPer. And beyond that, the fact that Electronic has kind of, I guess, rolled it back to become their best player overall, as opposed to there being some new rising talent, because I think the precipitous fall off of Axile has been the most disappointing narrative of this team, but also, unfortunately, one that I sort of expected, where it's just like the peaks of riflers is just, generally speaking, quite short unless you're talking about transcendent players. So for Axile to not have, and I don't think Axile's ever really found his footing in CS2, like his multi-frag potential, even from the exact same positions that he would find 2, sometimes even 3 kills in CSGO, has just never been found. And I think when CS2 dropped, it felt like the rest of the competition sort of leveled up and seized the opportunity that the game leveled people out a little bit, whereas Axile didn't really have that motivation. He's never really had great body language, for one, but I feel like it's really tough to see an Axile right now that's going to come hungry enough to be a difference maker on this team. Like, he gets like, it's like so annoying with him. Like, he'll have the one map where it's like, is he actually back? And then you just watch the next one and it's just like, that was such a fleeting moment for him. Perfecto, yeah, I guess he's really good. He just doesn't always have the most impactful positions to even make use of his individual ability right now.
I mean, I'll just say he's been amazing. Like, he's actually playing the best CS of his life right now. But it's not like he's going to carry, obviously, is your point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the point still stands that, yeah, like, you can do what you can do the absolute most you want with a 5-man rifler core, and then I feel like I saw Hobbit opping on Nuke actually the other day versus Saw, right? Like, so he still does op on that map, and then Boomich ops on, I think, every other map, and that's still just such an inconsistent idea. And I know that It really feels like Cloud9, their hands are just tied right now, where they had this lineup and there was no AWPer that they wanted to get or that the management wanted to pick up for the price that it would have cost them. And so everybody else just has to kind of twiddle their thumbs and say, well, we got to do the best we can with the tools we have. And it's like going into an F1 race with just like a standard compact car. Like, what are you even doing at that point? Like, you're just wasting everybody's time, even if you have the best drivers in the world. So it's it's just super disappointing that we know that. Like, I think like Cloud9, because of their teamwork, like when I still love watching Cloud9 in a post plant retake or post plant defense where all three of them have to just work off of each other and just use fundamentals and just basic mechanics in order to close out situations. That's when they're at their absolute apex. Like, I feel like I'll favor them in almost every situation in those kinds of moments than any other team right now, which is so sad to say, because obviously it's about the first 40% of the round where the AWPer has so much impact in terms of opening picks and making sure you can run certain types of setups, which they just don't allow themselves to do.
The trouble with this for me, when Cloud9, is this team has shown us exactly how CS2 is different from CS4. Because initially, remember, because of people like, remember, it was all the AWPers except Modesty basically was shit at the beginning of CS2. I mean, to be fair, the AWPer was way harder to use as well. If you remember all the fucking weird things where it didn't line up with the fucking actual model on the screen and basic things you used to. So I will give them a little bit credit. But at the time, people kept saying, yeah, maybe it's just not about AWP anymore. You don't need the AWP, right? If you didn't need the AWP, this team would actually win tournaments, guys, for real. Like, the rest of the players are really good. Like, look at the lineup. Like, none of these players in theory are like bad. Even the Axile one is relative to like what you think of in the past that he can do. He's still a competent player. And the saddest thing is this team shows you that in a way there was a grain of truth to what the CS2 fans said. You can sort of make it work without the AWP. But this is the problem. Even when you say without an AWP, we normally mean you just don't have a really good AWPer, because you take one AWP is obviously the star player role normally. This is like they literally don't have an AWP. That's the craziest thing about this squad. You look at the players, they don't even have people who secondary AWP. That's the maddest thing. There's a bazillion people in CS by now secondary AWP, and they are playing. They're fucking Russians, bro. There's no region in the world with more good AWPers. It's mental, isn't it? Like, as you say there, Maui, even if they say any shit, well, I didn't like the price of it. It's like, bro, I don't care what it costs. Like, whatever it costs to get even a Zorte into your team, like, that's like you could win tomorrow if you have that player. It's so sad because what they're showing is you do at least need the role of AWPer, even if they don't actually have to be the best. I feel like just a placeholder would even do in this team. And then in terms of the players, this is also why I know you do need an AWPer. Because even if Axile did play like those past years in 2022 when he was like a mega impact player, they still wouldn't win the tournament. They would just maybe make like the semi-final or make a final or something. They wouldn't actually win the event. So I actually think it just proves you do need an AWPer. And then on the electronic one, dude, this one just kills me because part of me also feels like, I'm just going to say it, I don't think Electronic's ever going to be the old Electronic.
You bit the poison apple of IGLing, man.
Dude, that's what I'm going to say. I really feel like, except for some very rare examples, I think the problem with the IGL is not that like you keep doing the role. I think once you see and think about the game in that way, you can't go back. It's like fucking you've left the Eden and the fucking veil's fallen and now you see things as they are. I mean, I'll give you another analogy. When you're a kid, even if you're shit at dancing, you don't give a fuck, do you? You just dance. But when you're a bit older, you might be better at dancing, but you'll be conscious, or what are people thinking of me? Oh, am I silly? Is this an appropriate time? Basically, he can't just dance like no one's watching anymore, Launders. Now it's in his head.
It's like this. It's like you could live a great life right now for like the next 80 years, like and if you lived out in the woods and knew how to like be self-sustaining, right? But if AI took over the entire world, obviously, then like and like controlled everything and just like destroyed the whole world, like you might be the last person to find out and would have lived the longest, happiest life in that time, right? But as soon as you realize and you live in a city and you think about AI taking over the entire world, you live existential dread every day of your life for the next 30 years, and then you eventually die. I mean, the time doesn't actually matter in this analogy, but in this situation, it's just being aware of the room being on fire. That is what ruins it for you. That Electronic is no longer focused on his crosshair, but his radar and the whole map. That's the thing that people don't bounce back from, that you're pointing out. Like, I've heard players tell me this privately. I don't think you should IGL.
Yeah.
Players told me that about Yakinder at events. Yep. We heard Faflaren tell me that about some good players in the past. Yes. And I actually believe that Electronic could do it. The sad part is this time I thought it would be the Apex example. He would stick with it. I've heard he had great communication, the best on the team. I think he's always been regarded as a smart player. He has played for a very long time. Maybe it's like the second half of his career. But then when he gave it up, maybe you can't really truly give it up. And if you take that risk, you're fucked.
Yes. And I'll just say, because it's a witty way to end it, the analogy is just like the rifle itself. If you had the AWP, it's hit or miss. So if you hit, you can win. The problem with Cloud9 is they're pretty good, but they always do 3 for 99. 3 for 99. Classic M4A4 problem. You all know it. Y'all remember CS2? It's not old at this point. I know. Whatever. There you go. I agree.
I was thinking some nip like 30%. Okay.
I agree. It is a waste of time. Because the real sad thing is, this is why it's actually also harsh to criticize them. Because the stupid thing is, if we didn't actually, if there weren't roles and we couldn't say they don't have an AWPer, they are just like a top 10 team and they're a good team and they're not even bad. But as you say, Launders, the reason it's a waste of everyone's time is, bro, they could actually win tournaments. This team looks like it could win tomorrow for real. The joke is, everyone actually was focused on the IGL angle, but which is fine. He looks like he's doing totally fine in that role. It's just, you need to have someone who does the sniper role, that's all. And I wouldn't say, just sniper. You have to be someone who can hold lines and hold a CT spot and let someone rotate. You can't, they don't have that at the moment. They don't have it.
He also is actually has moments where he clearly looks like the best AWPer on the team for what that's worth. But the problem is that his playstyle was so beneficial in 2021 for being a search IGL, someone who was very aggressive with a rifle. You don't want to do that with the AWP. It's just irresponsible. So it's at odds with his playstyle. Being the best player with the AWP is his own curse on this team. I don't know why they can't figure it out, but that's the sad part. He's not good enough to be an AWPer, and he's too good at rifling to be used in that role. So.
By the way, we need to design some sort of an IGL aggression spectrum. And obviously on the one side at maximum aggression is Boomich. And then obviously Jim, the other Russian, is on the other end. It's the Russian IGL aggression scale. They couldn't be more different. It's impossible, isn't it? It's ridiculous how they from the same region. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.